Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe's last games before this week at the World Cup finals was the same game. It was the World Cup final in 2022. There was 6 goals, 5 of them between them, and within that game, not only were they trying to win the World Cup for their respective teams, they were going head to head with all the greats of World Cup finals, the tournaments, the finals tournaments, World Cup finals, all-time top scorers. They were catching up with Pele, they were gathering around Pele, they were swapping places at times during the game on the top rung of the, the pantheon of scorers in World Cup finals, and Gerd Müller and Miroslav Klose and Ronaldo and Just Fontaine were the only ones kind of looking down on them during that game. And even within the game itself, even within that, they're up and down the all-time top scorers list. They're trying to win the World Cup for their respective teams. You've got Kylian Mbappe is setting other records by joining the very small band of players to have scored in 2 different finals of the World Cup. The final match, more than once. He scored in more than one final match. World Cup, like Zidane, Paul Breitner, Vava, Brazil, Pele. There's probably somebody else that I've missed, but it'll only be one other person at most if I have missed somebody out. This Clarke who scored in the 2018 final when France beat Croatia 4-2 in the Luzhniki, and there he is scoring again, and he scores a hat-trick in that World Cup final, even though France end up losing it in penalties in 2022 in Qatar. So that's him and Geoff Hurst. Geoff Hurst, the only surviving member of England's 1966 World Cup winning team. Him and Kylian Mbappe are the only 2 guys to have scored a hat-trick in the World Cup. But this week, in the States and Mexico and Canada, you've got Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe. Their first games they've played in the World Cup finals since the last final. They're doing it again. They've shared 5 goals between them. This time it's Mbappe getting 2 and it's Messi getting 3, both against great African sides. Senegal, good claim to be the reigning champions of Africa at this moment in time, have got further in the World Cups than Scotland ever had. Basically beat France when France were the holders in the opening game of 2002, most famously. Then you've got Algeria, who Argentina and Messi, 58-year-old Messi, are up against a few years later. They beat Germany in the 1982 World Cup, famously. They took Germany all the way again in the last 16, the last time Germany won the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. They took them to extra time in the last 16. These are great nations. One of the more recent Africa Cup of Nations was won by Algeria. Certainly not the first time they've won that. These are great nations. And Mbappe and Messi are using them for their own personal battle, but also right in the middle of that, like a couple of hours after Mbappe gets a sensational 2 goals in the 3-1 win over Senegal. And in that game, Mbappe is equaling and then overtaking Olivier Giroud's all-time record for France, and he's going level in terms of Frenchmen to score at the World Cup finals with Just Fontaine, who scored 13 goals in the 1950s. He's the greatest tally for a golden boot, although it wasn't called that then. Just top scorer at the World Cup, 13 goals in a World Cup finals tournament. Just Fontaine played 6 games, scored 1 against Scotland during that. So only the 1, scored 4 against the Germans in the third, fourth place playoff, but only scored the 1 against Scotland, so that's a feather in our cap. But Just Fontaine, he's 13 goals for France at World Cup finals, and that's all over. His tally is equaling that now, Kylian Mbappe. He's breaking all the French records, he's equaling the French records, but he's up there with Just Fontaine, and it's only Gerd Müller, and it's only Ronaldo, Fat Ronaldo, the phenomenon, and it's only Miroslav Klose, 14, 15, 16 goals. Gerd Müller got his, he's my all-time stats hero, Gerd Müller. He got his in 7 games, 10 goals at Mexico 1970, 4 goals at West Germany 1974, including the winner in the final for the host nation in his last ever match, having scored 2 goals to win the Euros 2 years before in the final of the Euros. He's just scoring winners in the European Cup final and stuff. It's just amazing, Gerd Müller. Don't get me into him, but he's my all-time hero, and these guys are just getting up there running about. Pele's getting left. He's getting left in the distance. He was getting left in the distance during that final in Qatar in 2022. And in between times, you get Erling Haaland, new kid on the block, playing his first ever match in the World Cup finals. Norway beat Iraq 4-1 in the same stadium that Scotland had played in last Saturday night against Haiti, the same stadium we're going to kick off in a couple of hours' time as I record this, against Morocco. But Haaland goes out and he scores the first 2 goals for Norway. First 2 goals, and 2 different goals, but phenomenal. That's him. He's making his mark. He wants to get into this race because he fancies himself as a world star. And a few years after that, You've got Messi goes out and he thinks 2 goals for Mbappe, 2 goals for Haaland. These guys probably think I'm all washed up now. I've had my day. Ping, pang, pong. And not only is he scoring a hat-trick, he's not only is he equaling, he's drawing level with Miroslav Klose at the very top of the all-time scorers table in the World Cup final, but he's pitting 3 past Zinedine Zidane's son, who's in nets for Algeria. That's quite vindictive against one of his other Frenchmen who's scored in more than one final of the World Cup. Quite vindictive there, Leo. But what a point he's making! It's an expanded tournament. It's ridiculous. It's just disgusting. It's exploitational. It's giving me a nervous breakdown. Just trying to record games that are on at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. Try to watch them at some point in the next day while they're still kind of relevant. But there's games on at 5 o'clock at night and 8 o'clock at night and 11 o'clock at night our time. It's impossible to keep up with, but you have to. I've refused. I said I'm going to just watch Scotland and I'll maybe get involved at the knockout stages because it's disgusting. Get a combination of Infantino and Trump, 2 of the most venal people in the history of humanity. I don't want to give them it, but it's because of this. It's because of the superstars turning up. It is the World Cup finals and my only involvement. Miroslav Klose scoring against Costa Rica in the opening game of the 2006 World Cup. That's the only World Cup finals match I've been at. I just applied to FIFA. I got a ticket at random. It was a kind of lottery type thing. I found out 2 days before. A ticket for the opening game. I'm in the very back row of what's the Bayern Munich end at the Allianz Arena, and this Miroslav Klose scoring in front of me and contributing towards the greatest. It's going to get overtaken, but there's a couple of guys. That's my involvement. As a Scotland fan, as somebody who loves Scotland, that's my involvement in the World Cup. It's through other teams, through big teams, and there's a few guys, a few rows in front of me in that game wearing the kilt. Scotland weren't even there. And this is as close as I'll get. It's a kind of linking Scotland to the World Cup. We need more. We need to do more, and we can do it. I remember going to see Rangers against Hackett. I know I'm talking about Rangers, but we need to get into this via football that we recognise. We've only got our club team. I've seen 97, 96 games. I've seen 97. I think I'm on now. 97 Scotland games that I have been to, which is more than a tenth of every men's international Scotland have ever played, and we played in the first one ever. We played in the first international football match ever played back in 1872 here in Glasgow, and that's quite a thing, even though there's people who have been to far more Scotland games than me, but I've been to 10 times that and watching club football, more than 10 times that, and it's mostly Rangers games. 800, 900 Rangers games, whatever I've been to. I think it's just over 800 according to Footballogy. So that's where I get. It's just a comparison. It's something that can, whatever team, whatever club you happen to support. Most of you that are watching this will support Rangers, but I know there's a few, and you're very, very welcome. It's about Scotland, but hang in there with me. FC Haka of Finland. We played them in the qualifying rounds of the 1998-99 Champions League, not 1999-2000 Champions League. And it was Dick Advocaat's second season in charge of Rangers, and I'm there with an Italian bloke. It's my sister-in-law, her boyfriend. She taught English in Italy, and the two of them, her and her boyfriend, stayed in Bergamo and worked in Milan during the week. And my wife, she was my wife then, this such a wonderful holiday in Italy. In April 99, we went over there. We get married in May 99 back in Glasgow. But we're over there and we're staying with them. And he took Walter, his name's Walter as well. Walter took me to the Curva Pisani. He was an Atalanta ultra, and that was a great honour. So when he comes over to Scotland for a month, about 6 months later, he'd been hearing all about Rangers from my father-in-law, from my sister-in-law, and I'm like, I'll take you. So Haka, we'd won 4-1. It'd been pre-drawn. We knew we were going to get Parma in the playoff round. Parma who'd put us at the UEFA Cup the previous season, and who won the UEFA Cup the previous season, having won the UEFA Cup in 1995 as well, and having won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1993 and lost the Cup Winners' Cup final in 1994. A great, great Parma side. And we beat Haka 4-1 in Finland in the first leg, so this was a formality, but there was still about 47,000 at Ibrox that night. We're sitting up the back of the Broom, and Rangers won 3-0, but made a few mistakes. It was a bit lazy. We were kind of phoning it in. Full team out there, though, I think, that was playing that night. And Walter saying to me, Parma will kill you. Parma will kill you. And I'm like, well, it'll be a different atmosphere next week. And he's gone, it's full. How can it be different next week? I'm thinking, a bit of Italian pride, I think. I don't know what it was getting to him. I was beating Finnish nobody's 7-1 in aggregate. He was feeling his pride was getting pricked. But I was whatever, we'll see. You're trying to be nice and all that. 2 weeks later, Parma turned up to Ibrox. And I'm thinking, obviously, everybody's expecting that we're going to get beaten. That's what's supposed to happen here with the money they've got, the players they've got, and they disposed of us the previous season. It was the one each at Ibrox, and we took the lead in Parma in the second leg, Georg Alberts, but they eventually beat us 3-1 on the night, 4-2 on aggregate. But on they went to win the UEFA Cup with Hugh Dallas refereeing the final in the Luzhniki. Anyway, against Marseille, never mind that. Like, so I'm there with, well, and what happens is my sister phones me. She's up for England, and she's wanting to go to the game with me. And she's at a ticket office. I didn't have my season ticket. I was still living the kind of student lifestyle at that point in time, and just get married. There was things to pay for. It was next season before I got the season ticket. It's lasted me until now. I'd had the season ticket before then, but my sister phones me at the ticket office going, I can get 5 tickets together in the West Enclosure. I'm like, what? So I ends up going to this game that I just went with my wife, my sister-in-law, and an Italian visitor. I'm thinking, I don't want to be looking after anybody else on a night like this. I just want to be concentrating on Rangers, and why don't we get a ticket for my mum and my gran who died 2 years ago, and just so it complete the folk that I've got to worry about the most. Everybody's super safe at Ibrox. A few drinks before the game, singing the songs in the underground and all that. Tremendous. And you knew it was something special in the air, and it was a different Ibrox altogether, as we all knew it would be. If I was like, all right, okay. I'm kind of looking at him, and he's thinking, well, this is impressive, but it's still Parma. And Parma were thinking that as well. We get rid of you last season. We want to get to the final. We want to get into the Champions League group stages, get you out the way. You are a formality. But the most symbiotic, one of the most symbiotic nights, maybe only RB Leipzig beat it with the support and the team R1, and we're just chasing Parma. We get great players. In this team. We've got Tony Vidmar and Claudio Reyna score the goals. Australia against USA right now. When I left to record this, it's in Seattle. They're playing right now. It was 1-0 to the USA. They get blue shots on that. What's a lot better. But it's Tony Vidmar and Claudio Reyna's son, Gio Reyna, named after his teammate playing that night as well, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, that night against Parma. Last weekend, 2026, Gio Reyna scores the first time any US international has scored a 4th goal for the USA in the World Cup finals. Not his 4th goal, but he made it 4-1 against Paraguay last Friday night, is what I'm trying to say. But the links are all there. But it's Fabio Cannavaro who were watching at the Azteca the other night. He's the Azteca at night time. Liam McLeod and James McFadden doing a commentary from a phone box somewhere in the USA. Obviously, they should have been there because what an atmosphere it looked like. It looked like a great atmosphere. Azteca at night. I'd never seen it before. Uzbekistan against Las Cafeteros, Colombia, 3-1 to Colombia, but like the Colombia manager played for Argentina in the 1990 World Cup final, lost in Rome, and there's Fabio Cannavaro. He's the manager of Uzbekistan in their first ever World Cup finals match, and he's a former Ballon d'Or and the captain of Italy. To know a bit about Rome when they won the World Cup in 2006 in Berlin, when they won the World Cup final there. So that was quite a link. But Fabio Cannavaro was playing that night 27 years ago in Ibrox for Parma, and he gets a bit ratty because the Parma players are getting a bit ratty because it's just not quite happening. This is a formality. We want to get this game out of the way, and Rangers will only let them get it out of the way, and the crowd only let them get it out of the way. Why are you believing in this? And he gets a bit in the missed times of tackle, and he's sent off, and that's it. We're in. We get to 2 goals, we lose 1-0 over there, and we are through. And we assumed it was going to go a certain way, and it didn't go a certain way because things don't always work out the same way. Morocco beat us 3-0 the last time we played them in the World Cup finals. Does it have to work that way again? It could be 6-0. There's no getting away from it, but I don't know. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Egg. Ridiculously late. I've just got to get it out. I've just got to share because I'm just getting a bit emotional. This is your Fat Egg. Scotland, let's face it, it might be a complete disaster. We could get absolutely destroyed. It could be nice and boring. We would take that as well. It might just be a 2 or 3 goal defeat, which would give us a wee chance maybe of going through on the 3 points that we've already got in this World Cup group stage. But let's face it, Scotland are on the cusp, 11 o'clock tonight, of the greatest post-war achievement. The international team, the Scotland men's international team, is on the cusp of their greatest ever post-war achievement. Before the Second World War, the home internationals were still the bee's knees as far as we were concerned. Very insular, the home nations. You win the home nations, we thought we were the best team in the world. And we did a lot of that back then. Wembley Wizards, all that. Beating England, 1967, when they were the World Cup holders. That was fantastic. It's phenomenal. Very proud of that. I wasn't born yet. My dad was there. And Jim Baxter juggling the ball. It seems sensational. I've watched it. It seems fantastic. First nation to beat them, to beat England after they won the World Cup. But it's kind of like just a cheap shot, isn't it? It's kind of a very internecine thing, a very local thing. It's a derby thing, and I like beating England and all that. But when Scotland play England, obviously I want Scotland to win very much. So we've become too obsessed with that. This is us on the cusp of our greatest ever moment because we've fought for the right. It's taken us 28 years to get back here, and this is it. It could happen. We've been in this situation before. During the Euros, if we'd done something in the last two Euros, we could have had our first ever progression to the second stages of a major tournament. But this is us here. We're going to get two goes at it. Unfortunately, one was against Morocco and one was against Brazil, who are both phenomenal sides right now. But you have to face up to it because it might just happen. It might just happen, and there's reasons why it could. Preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet, the best Rangers pod in Poddington, and also with gift bags. Gift bags presented by managers Zlatko Dalic, the Croatia manager of their team. Less than 4 million people in Croatia, and since we went out in San Etienne to Morocco in 1998, Croatia have reached the semi-finals of the World Cup 3 times. One of those times they went on to the final, which they lost in 2018. Zlatko Dalic was their manager. It's nothing to do with population. We should be in amongst Messi, Mbappe, all these kind of records. We played the first fucking international football match ever played. I'd keep saying it. I know I've been saying it for years, but it's just a disgrace, our national team. But one step at a time. One step at a time. This thing of just... Oh, it's no Scotland, no party, too much partying, and there's no Scotland team worth talking about. This has been I don't blame the Scotland fans for that. You've got to find another way to enjoy yourself. But it's got nothing to do with the game so many times. I'm about the game. I'm a Scotland supporter, and I just want us to do the business. What the hell am I talking about? Sponsored by, yeah, the wee bag. It made me feel so good. It's like Dalic. You've got the players, England against Croatia, in that dystopian, amazing-looking stadium. Mbappe, that stadium in New Jersey, it's going to host the final. I'm looking at it thinking, because they're NFL stadiums, it's the same with the Seattle Sounders, the Seattle Seahawks Stadium and the Sounders Stadium. Because they're NFL stadiums, I don't... You're right, maybe it's an optical illusion, but the pitches seem much narrower. And I'm looking at the space between the box and the wing, and I'm thinking it's wider at Ibrox. In these stadiums, they're not wide enough, they're not big enough for the proper football. My God, the football that's been dished up on them is amazing. But I think it's actually because of the stands. It's because of the constructions round about them. Not nice, a lot of them, but that makes them almost more wondrous. That stadium, the old Meadowlands rebuilt, the MetLife Stadium, where the Sharks and the Jets play, maybe the Giants play the NFL, where the final is going to be hosted. It's like 4 ziggurats that have been upturned and they're connected at the corner. It's like something out of Alien. The old the Navigator or whatever it is. It's kind of old futuristic. Look, it's unbelievable. It's kind of scary looking, the stuff that go. It's like a reprise of the New Jersey skyline as opposed to the Manhattan skyline that you can see along there. It's kind of like office buildings upturned and turned into the form barely of a grandstand, all around, joined up, and it's dead in Arlington. Anyway, England are swapping pennants away, so I'm getting a bit excited before kick-off. England swapping pennants with Croatia, the captains. That's tremendous. Cuts to the technical areas like, it's a wee bag for you, Thomas. The managers. Thomas took off. No, go in. Scotland, 1950. Revenge on it. This is the revenge in England I want. 1954, I've waited for this. The first time Scotland played in the World Cup finals. There's no Rangers players there, because we're all, ironically, on a tour of North America. It's Canada and the States, because we're treating the World Cup as seriously as the SFA are treating it. We've not got the proper kit. And we get gubbed 7-0 by Uruguay, the holders, in the heat of Basel, because it's no snowy all year round in Switzerland, SFA. That's just the postcards you see. That's just the Christmas cards you get. It's absolutely roasting. The sort of Uruguay are playing with the empty, kind of really thin gear on, the modern equipment. We've got the woolen tops, and we've got the big woolen socks and the big old boots that we're playing with in the middle of the heat. And Uruguay are the holders of the World Cup. They won the thing. They beat us 7-0. Austria in the first game only beat us 1-0 in Zurich in the hard tournament. This heartbreaking picture of Willie Cunningham, the Preston North End captain of Scotland, with the Austrian captain, and they're both holding the same pennant for the photographs, because Austria brought a pennant to swap. We didn't have, the SFA didn't supply us with any pennants to swap with the rival captains in our first ever foray into World Cup. All there, England, Thomas Tuchel didn't have a clue. Did he have a gift bag? Could he even slip the guy a fiver or something? Did he get himself a pint later or not? It was nothing. Really embarrassing. That was fantastic. Sorry, how you doing? My name's what is my name? It's Alec Anderson. That's right. It's cold outside. It's not. It gets so hot in here. The boys and girls collide to the music in my ear. Hear the children crying, and I know it's time to go. Hear the children crying, take me home. I could have went with the specials there. With I go out on Friday night and I come home on Saturday morning. A classic, they kick off at 11 o'clock and it'll be finished by 1 o'clock in the morning Saturday. But we don't want any notions of going out or coming home, even though it can't happen, whatever the result is tonight. And I'll go with the U2. I'll go with, if you've got the best version of that on YouTube, is the Old Grey Whistle Test, 1981, 1980. I think it's 1981, the same set they do. I Will Follow, tremendous, proper, early U2, but it went stratospheric about a year or two later when they did it at Red Rocks. The Under a Blood Red Sky, the album comes out, which I was the first person to buy Sockets and Rushing the Three Tunes. I spread U2 to the Three Tunes. I sat up and watched it on Channel 4 that night. It was on Channel 4 when I was just a kid, and nobody else had heard them until I spread the word amongst my mates and all that. But U2, and it was at Red Rocks, which is in Oregon, which is, I can't really tie that into the game because but as in the States, it is the Celtic thing. U2, I'm tapping into my Celtic side tonight. And it's way over towards the west coast, but it's not on the west coast. It's before the mountains. Now it's still in the middle, kind of a long way away from Massachusetts, from Foxborough tonight. But they're probably, I think, only holds about 10,000 Red Rocks, but there'll be more than that there in Morocco. It's in Foxborough this evening when we play Morocco. But you've got Bono, the aching guitar work on 11 o'clock TikTok. Phenomenal stuff, and he might have learned that. I read a recent biography of John Martin, the kind of alcoholic, horrible to his family, musical genius who was born in England but raised in the south side of Glasgow. Folk revival, a brilliant folk singer and guitarist, a brilliant blues man, brilliant jazzer. But he developed this Echoplex thing in his guitar, and it used to be in the same label for a brief. At some point, it was Ireland, but that's CBS. But it's an Irish import. That copy of 11 o'clock TikTok I've got behind me. But they were in the same label at some point. Anyway, I think it's Island Records. So they think that the Echoplex thing he developed with his guitar really ahead of its time. John Martin, The Edge, it seems like he's probably been in the studio just visiting at some point and he's picked that up. That's why he's got that unique guitar style. There's always influences there, and and he's dancing on the stage, isn't he? Bono with the lassie, he gets on, he picks it up. 11 o'clock ticks, so call out your name. I don't know, I'm just tapping into my Celtic side. I feel as if that's something that's going to happen tonight as the game kicks off at 11 o'clock. It could get emotional in good ways and bad ways. The whole thing is, maybe all the multiple red cards are only given out versus the host nations on a Thursday night. 2 for South Africa against Mexico on opening night. 2 for Qatar last night against Canada. Lopetegui, at least he gets to manage a couple of games this time before he gets sacked at a World Cup. At least go to the World Cup this time before he gets sacked. That'll teach him to take on that job. But Steve Clarke annoys people. Steve Clarke teams annoy people. Steve Clarke annoys some of the fans of the teams he's actually managing. Never mind the opposition. I'm going to talk about Rangers again, but it's related to Scotland. It's going to give you hope about Scotland. I was at Steve Clarke's first game in charge of Kilmarnock, where he really set the train in motion for him taking on the Scotland job. It was against Rangers. He'd get rid of Pedro Caixinha. It was Pedro Caixinha's last match in charge of Rangers. He'd done other bad things, Pedro, but this was the final straw, and we're beating Kilmarnock midweek, cold night. We're beating Kilmarnock 1-0, and we can't get a second goal. We can't get a second goal, and we get a penalty in injury time. It's basically, this is going to be the last kick of the ball. We get a penalty, and I remember turning to Jenna beside and thinking, typical. Spent the whole bloody night wanting us to get a second goal, and now we're going to get it right at the end of the game, but as well just hearing the final whistle. Kilmarnock save the penalty, of course, and go right up the park and score the equaliser. And that's the end of Pedro, and that's Steve Clarke. You don't give up. You don't give up. You stick in there. You create a chance as long as where there is life, there is hope. Remember getting beat 3-0 in Dublin. Remember getting beat 3-0 in Dublin after we'd lost to Ukraine in the semi-final, the playoffs of the World Cup, and then we get beat 3-0 in Dublin in the Nations League. We go Republic of Ireland back to Hampden. We beat them. We go Ukraine back to Hampden in that same Nations League group a few months after they'd beaten his World Cup playoff. Beat them 3-0. Beat Armenia home and away as well, and we ended up getting promoted for the group, and that's helping it. He lost the first 3 games in the Nations League group when we got up to League A. We lost at home to Poland, away to Portugal, away to Croatia. It's like, they had a great record in the Nations League before then. We've overstepped, we've overreached. Then we draw 0-0 with Portugal. And then we beat Croatia, a great night at Hampden, a great Friday night at Hampden. Then we go to Poland and we score a last minute winner, a wonder ball from John Suter, headed at a back post from Andy Robertson. You never give up. We lost 4 straight in the Euro 2020 qualifying. Russia and Belgium home and away. We still go there though, didn't we? We still go to the Euros under Steve Clarke. Never give up, and Steve Clarke doesn't he? This is something's going to happen tonight. There's one of two things that's going to happen tonight. We're either going to continue the step change improvement under Steve Clarke, irrespective of what happens tonight, because we've won a game at a finals. Something didn't happen in the last 2 finals, and we weren't getting to finals for 22 years before Steve Clarke took over. We're either going to, that's already in the bag, the step change improvement, and what happens, or it's just going to all fall into place. How's it going to fall into place against Morocco, Alec? What are you talking about? We'll start with the step change improvement first. Steve Clarke comes in his very first game in charge. I'm there against Cyprus. He takes over from Alec McLeish, who had a disastrous loss in Kazakhstan. He takes over from Big Ek, and he's trying to revive the qualifiers for Euro 2020. We're drawing with Cyprus. Cyprus equalise on us on a Saturday night at Hampden until Ollie Work gets a goal right at the end, kind of 2 or 3 minutes from the end. Saved, never give up. Lose the next 4 games, as I say, Belgium, Russia, home and away. But we finished third in the group. That's not enough, but he uses Alec McLeish's great Nations League record. I think it was Malta and Albania we'd beaten home and away in League C. But that gave us a wee go. We get Israel, nobody at Hampden, COVID, in the semi-finals of those playoffs. It goes to penalties. And we're at home, it goes to penalties. We score all our penalties. We go through, we play Serbia. We're beating Serbia in Belgrade in the final, the playoff final. And they equalise in the last minute, do Serbia. But we keep going, extra time. We score all our penalties. They eventually have one saved, and away we go. We've qualified for a tournament. We've qualified for Euro 2020. It's at home. We get 2 games at home, 2 games at Hampden, 1 at Wembley, our second home. That's the only one we got a point from, the trip to Wembley. It's disappointing, but we're back. And we didn't have the home crowd because of COVID was restricting the crowd numbers. I was at the Czech Republic game. It was a terrible atmosphere. So that's a disappointment. But that's as we then go into the World Cup qualifiers, and we finish second in the group. So we get into the playoffs via the actual group itself. Denmark finish above us in that one, but we give Denmark a wee beating in the last game just to, I think they feel they're a kind of weakened team, they're already through, but we beat them, so we go into the playoffs via, we lose to Ukraine in the semi-final. We would have played Wales and Cardiff if we'd beaten them, but that's at least we're qualifying for playoffs via the group rather than relying on the Nations League get-out clause. Next campaign, Euros. We qualify straight away. We finish in second place. It's only Spain above us. We win all our games at Hampden, bar a 3-8 draw with Norway after we'd qualified. And we came so close to beating Spain. Oh, it didn't come close to beating Spain. They were totally dominant against us at La Cartuja in the away game. But phenomenal Scott McTominay goal, as far as I was concerned, very dodgily ruled out when it would have been 1-0 to Scotland. Only team that Spain lost in that entire campaign. They won the Euros and we beat them at Hampden. We sent them home to think again. You've got Rodri losing a rag at how well we'd played. We absolutely scalped them that night and they went on to win the Euros. We do these things. We go through in second place. We get to the Euros, but it's away from home this time. Another humiliation in the first game. No Patrick Schick going for the halfway line, but losing 5-1 to the Germans. But it's the Germans in Munich. They're the hosts. And it's the Germans. The Germans at a major tournament. That's a major thing. And we draw with the Swiss, so we've got a point again like we did in the previous Euros. And this time we go out again, but it was the very last minute. We got beat 3-1 by Croatia in the last game of Euro 2020. This is Hungary in Stuttgart, and it goes down to the 100th minute. And I can see tactically what he was trying to do. Steve Clarke, he couldn't gamble. Our defence wasn't good enough. And then we go into the qualifiers for this World Cup, and we're top of the group, and it's totally spectacular, and we're straight in. And we've already won a game. It's step change all the time. He's maintaining in the Euros with us in Group Group B, and then the Nations League, and then the Nations League after that, he gets promotion to League A, up to League A, up to the top tier, and we very nearly went into the playoffs, the relegation playoff, and won the first leg away from home Piraeus against the Greeks. They scalped us at Hampden, but fights all the way, and it gets in folks' tits. Ronaldo is annoyed by Scotland not letting them score on them. At Hampton in the Nations League. Spain, Rodri, going mental. Norway, last week, pissed off that we knocked them back for a bounce game. He's piss people off. This is what I want. I don't want Scotland, the cuddly toy, oh, let's look at their fans, be nice, their team's pish. Get under folks' skin. Because Morocco, this is at an earlier kick-off, so it's going to be warmer. It's tea time we're kicking off at tonight, 6 o'clock, I think, local time. As opposed to later in the evening last week. It won't be dark at first anyway. In this game in Morocco or from North Africa, the weather isn't, but it suits them. But they're having to move. They're having to move from New York or New Jersey. They played that game last week. They've had to move bases. We're staying at the same stadium. It's a bit warmer. We've had a week more to acclimatise. We're playing at the same place we played at with the home team tonight, different dressing room. But it's not much of an adjustment for Scotland. And Morocco are African champions. But there's a bit people aren't really believing that. They think it should be Senegal, a lot of people. So there's a bugbear there. They drew with Brazil last week and they were sensational. They were sensational, particularly in that first half against Brazil. But Brazil tried to play them at football as Brazil are. Just they have to. Brazil have to play everybody at football. And so Morocco just walked right through them. Morocco hit them in the counter-attack with electric. We won't do that. We'll be sitting in deep as anything. In this game tonight, we will be frustrating Morocco. Morocco also at the World Cup semi-finals last time, a bit frustrated at how they went out against France in that semi-final, probably frustrated at losing the bronze medal match to Croatia as well. They've got a bit to prove. They could have beat Brazil last week. They should be acknowledged as African champions. They want to get back to World Cup semi-finals, but it was their first ever World Cup semi-final. And again, I'm going to go back to Rangers. It's my only comparator. Back to Rangers, 1992-93 were a goal away from the Champions League final, but we're not used to getting that far. So you come in the following season with a kind of cockiness. Let's get us back to the semi-final stage. Let's get us back to being a point or a goal away from the final. Want to get back and we'll prove we can do it this time. You're not concentrating. You're not completely resetting the way Spain do, the way the Germans do, the way Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich are not doing their European club scene. If you didn't win it, you didn't win it. You have to reset and go again. They've got the confidence. Who's this Levski Sofia? A bunch of Bulgarians. Let's get them out of the way and get ourselves back to the far end of the group stage. Levski Sofia do us. They put us out. We don't go through. Let's be Levski Sofia to Morocco's Rangers tonight. Let's do that. Rangers 93. 94, let's get in their nerves, get somebody sent it. That I was a bit upset at us only beating Haiti. Well, not upset, but kind of disappointed. I'm not even disappointed, it's like the celebrations were OTT. But I did say we'll only know how valuable this is depending on what we do with the rest of the group. But you can't do anything in the rest of the group. You can't do anything in the group unless you get the 3 points to build on against Haiti. And we got that. You see Cape Verde holding Spain to a draw. Doesn't mean anything for Spain. Spain lost their first match of the 2010 World Cup to Switzerland, the group stage. Argentina lost their first match, the group stage, the very first match of the last World Cup to Saudi Arabia. The two of them won that thing. The team that's won the World Cup hasn't won all its first round group stage matches since Brazil and won it in Korea and Japan in 2002. That's quite a while. It's famous. Germany losing to East Germany, of course, in the 1974 World Cup. Argentina lost to Italy, I think it was, in Buenos Aires in the 78 World Cup. It's famous that teams that win the World Cup will lose a match along the way, perhaps. But it's very rare they win all the group games. So maybe Scotland to hold back tonight. Don't win this group game because you'll count yourself out from winning the thing. But if we get them frustrated, if we get players sent off, if Morocco can get players... This is a horrible thing, and I kind of hate to mention it. But it's the kind of stuff that can happen because a woman has suffered horrifically. Allegedly. It looks great. Ashraf Hakimi, who's scored for PSG in last season's Champions League final and played for them again when they won it 2 years in the trot against Arsenal this season, the Champions League final. One of the best right-backs, if not the best right-back in the world. He just found out hours ago that his appeal against a rape conviction has been rejected. He's gone on trial for rape, a historic rape from 3 or 4 years ago, he's accused of. He's just found that out today. I don't know if he'll play tonight. I don't want to seem to be getting, a football benefit out of something so socially horrible. But this is the kind of thing that can happen, that can make a team just be a bit too eager to get ahead of us. Morocco might think it was the first time any African team had got to the semi-finals of the World Cup 3.5 years ago in Qatar. But what happened to South Korea after 2002? What happened to Turkey after 2002? What happened to Bulgaria after 1994? Never heard of again in terms of World Cups. A lot of teams get that far and then that's it. Morocco might be kidding themselves, getting ahead of themselves. They're a fantastic team, top 10 in the world. But if they get ahead of themselves, they get a bit ratty, and Scotland know how to get in folks' tits. Steve Clarke, Scotland in particular, because we are being step changed, improving over, 8 years now? A real kind of club vibe going about us. I think tonight's, I don't think it'll go back to the 5-3-1-1, it was 3-5-1-1 it was supposed to be, when the early days with Scotland we had to stop the rot. But I think he's probably going to go 4-2-3-1. In fact, you'll probably know the team by now. It's 9:30. I'm recording this. He's probably going to go 4-2-3-1. I think Shankland's getting subbed off. He's getting withdrawn from the starting 11 tonight. I think it's just going to be Shea Adams up front on his own, and maybe John McGinn behind him in a kind of hybrid number 10 to support Shea Adams, but also just coming back into midfield when we're defending, which will be for most of the game. I think 4-2-3-1. Shankland comes off, and also Ben Gannon-Doak. Sorry, they don't start. The team guys who started last week against Haiti, Ben Gannon-Doak and Shankland, I think, will be benched tonight to get Ryan Christie on there alongside John McGinn, and to perhaps get like Kenny McLean on to give us a kind of double pivot at the back, or just two sitting midfielders, McLean and Lewis Ferguson sitting in front of our kind of dodgy central defence, but behind the three, which is probably going to be McTominay, John McGinn and Ryan Christie. I think it needs to be with Shea Adams up front. If Hakimi's playing, one of the best right backs in the world, Andy Robertson, who's also got a Champions League winners medal, has got to go left back and play up against him. You expect him to play there. But in a situation though, where, as I said before, I think Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney, quite frankly, are better centre halves, even though they're far better, but they're world class almost as fullbacks. But they're probably better centre halves than any of the centre halves that we've got with us. But I would go with Hendry and Hanley again. They got through with a clean sheet last week. Jack Henry, I think, is a better player. Grant Hanley, I don't know. I think Grant Hanley could come out the team tonight. We'll see how Steve Clarke wants to play it, but I think the main thing is the shape. We're probably going to go 4-2-3-1, and we will sit in. This is how we pissed off Portugal at Hampden. This is how we beat Spain at Hampden. This is how we beat Croatia at Hampden. This is how we drew away with Denmark. There's no reason we can't do this, Scotland, and there's no reason that if we get a wee red card from Morocco, it'd probably need to be 2 if we get any chance of beating them. But just as Morocco decide they've got to push for the 3 points, they decide it's just getting in their nerves. They decide to lump it forward a bit late, lump up forward with a lot of players going forward late on in the game, injury time, and you're already thinking, are Scotland going to get a point here? Are we going to get 4 points? It'll almost guarantee us going through. Substitute Finlay Curtis has got the pace. There's a ball that get kind of caught out, and away he goes. And Lawrence Shankland, who's a substitute as well, coming on at the end. He's in the middle waiting for it, and across it goes. And the greatest moment of your life as a Scotland supporter could be about to happen in a few hours. It could just be the same old, same old. We could get pumped 6-7. It could be worse than Uruguay in 1950, but it's an 11 o'clock kick-off on a Friday, and it will finish at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. It's got a very, very Hogmanay feel to it, hasn't it? Which suits us as a nation. Sort of back home anyway, it's a Hogmanay feeling for the rest of us. And there's one old acquaintance we do want to forget, and that's Scotland's failure to get through a second round. I don't know who's going to have time to watch this podcast, folks. I just want to get it out there, because I need to get it out of my system. I'll do a post-match reaction as well, and I'll try and make it even shorter. But we need to just turn this into the best kind of sitting up to the bells and enjoying it into the wee small hours celebration to beat all the New Years that we have enjoyed. I will see you in the other side trips. Good luck, Scotland. Enjoy the game, folks.